Okay, now we're getting into section 2 of unit 9. And today in this section, we'll be going over human computer interaction versus computer mediated communication, synchronous versus asynchronous communication, Hughes filtered out approach, hyper-personal model of computer mediated communication. And we'll get into all this. Then depersonalization and social network theory and online dating. So we're not going to do this review because you guys have access to these throughout the whole week since it's the online section. So we'll just start at human computer interaction versus computer mediated communication, or CMC. Human computer interaction is user to system communication. So this is, you can think about Alexa or any kind of AI that you speak directly to. That is human computer interaction. Or if you're playing a video game just by yourself, like one player, that would be human computer interaction. Whereas computer mediated communication is user to user communication through a computer-based technology. So if you're playing a game, like a video game with your friend, and they're somewhere else, that would be computer mediated communication. Whereas if you were just doing like a one-player game, that would be human computer interaction. Other computer mediated communication examples would be even email or Zoom or things like that. So user to user, there are two people who are communicating via mediated formats. Synchronous versus asynchronous communication. What we're doing right now is considered asynchronous communication because this is a pre-recorded communication. This is a pre-recorded video that you get to watch whenever it's most convenient for you. There's a delay between the source distributing the message and the receiver getting the message. So I'm recording this today. You will be watching this whenever you watch it. Whereas synchronous is real-time communication. So if we had this class entirely on Zoom and you had to show up during this time and we interacted synchronously, that would be synchronous communication. So I feel like I'll know the answer to this question based on those of you who are taking this class because it's an online section. But what do you consider to be the advantages of synchronous computer mediated communication and the advantages of asynchronous computer mediated communication? I too was I love taking online classes because I like going at my own pace. So I would say one of the advantages of synchronous or asynchronous computer mediated communication is that you get to do it on your own time, right? One of the advantages of synchronous computer mediated communication is that you have an opportunity for feedback and you have an opportunity to ask questions. So if we were on Zoom and you had a question about synchronous communication, then you could just ask me and raise your hand and it would just be done. But instead, you would have to email me or come to my office hours or whatever. So that leads us to disadvantages of synchronous and asynchronous communication. I kind of talked about it's inconvenient sometimes to go out of your way to send an email, you don't get direct feedback. And then disadvantages of synchronous communication is kind of sometimes synchronous communication is nerve-wracking and we don't want to raise our hand on Zoom because it's just kind of awkward sometimes. So yeah. These might be different for y'all, but just some things to think about. And then generally speaking, when communicating online, do you prefer asynchronous or synchronous communication? I prefer asynchronous probably, but I don't know. Maybe it switches back and forth. Getting into social media, just definitions. Social media, it involves uniquely identifiable profiles that consist of user-supplied content, content provided by other users, and or system-level data. So user-supplied content, content provided by other users, and or system-level data. And we'll go into examples of some of these things too. So there is also this aspect of social media that our connections can be seen by others. So that's our network, and it can be seen by others. And we'll watch this really cool video too toward the end of this lecture that will describe this a little bit more. And then 3, users can consume, produce, and or interact with user-generated content provided by their connections on the site. So it's interactive. And just to like give some examples here, uniquely identifiable profiles that consist of user-supplied content provided by other users and or system-level data. An example of this is a Spotify profile and playlist. So you have your own profile, you created the content or you combine the content, and then there's content that you use from other people's stuff that you put in yours, and then there's system-level data too, such as like analytics and likes and followers and like all of that stuff. So there's a list of connections that can be seen by others. So this is our Spotify followers list. We can see who's following us. We can see who other people are following. And sometimes we make those connections. Like if you know you like this person's music a lot, then maybe you'll like this person's music, and they seem to have a lot of interesting connections, right? So then 3, users can consume, produce, and or interact with user-generated content provided by their connections on the site. This is where we share Spotify playlists, right? Or send someone a song or whatever. Good. Okay. So now we can try with Facebook, same thing. So user-supplied content provided by others, and or system-level data. This is our profile and our timeline on Facebook. Then we have our list of connections or network that can be seen by others. These are our Facebook friends list. And I think you can make some of this private. I don't do Facebook a lot. I don't like Facebook. But yeah, we usually, at least it used to be that you can see everybody's friends list and things like that. So users can consume, produce, and or interact with user-generated content provided by their connections on the site. This is when we post likes and comments. So this is like when we interact with other users, right? There's a cues filtered out approach, and this is a computer-mediated communication, like part of a theory, and it's part of, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's multiplexity theory. But for this class, you just need to know cues filtered out approach. And this states that computer-mediated communication could not effectively facilitate communication because it lacks nonverbal cues. So this is stuff that's just text only. However, we see that has changed a lot and will continue to change a lot, because this is a picture of like what internet used to look like a long time ago, right? This is not what it looks like anymore. And we have a lot more cues, a lot more social cues and nonverbal cues. So we're going to argue this with the next point, but I'm going to take a break and jump back on in just a moment.